All right. Well, we've got Kelly Keaschall with us for the third episode of our Supporting Leaders podcast. And Kelly is the Chief Operating Officer at Hueber DeKalb Feeds. And so, Kelly, how many years have you been there? And what exactly is a Chief Operating Officer?
Okay. Well, I've been here since 1982. So I'm 39 years in this office, and as Chief Operating Officer for Hueber DeKalb Feeds, I oversee all the divisions that we operate out of the Rock Falls locations where I'm at. And we have basically, we have several divisions. We have our feed division that we have, which is our main division. Then we have a byproducts division where we sell wet distillers grains and soybean meal and those type of things to our customers. And we have a consulting division that we operate under Corn Belt Livestock Services, which allows us to reach outside of our immediate trade area. And then the last thing that we have, the fourth thing, is we have a weaned pig placement business that we do, which is a contractual arrangement between sow centers and finishers who want to buy a early weaned pig. So those are the four divisions, and people report to me from all four of those divisions.
Wow. So, I mean, that seems like quite the breadth of an operation there. And in your current role of Chief Operating Officer, so do you supervise the people who manage each of those different operations? What's the day-to-day look like for you?
My day-to-day differs every day. I have a field staff that makes my day change every day, and that's my job is to keep those guys moving forward, taking care of customers, working on prospects, doing those type of things, making sure that we're keeping the engine running is what I view my job, and it changes from day to day, and it's about making decisions of what we're going to do next, and you know, I got a good crew of people that I work under or work with, and you know, I basically just support them. You know, my predecessor always told me just hire good people, support them, and get out of their way. And that's kind of my approach to. I try to offer a lot of authority to our people so the decisions can be made as close as they can to the producer or our producers, our customer.
I'd say that's great. I've heard that too. Just hire good people and get the heck out of their way. So I'm curious, in, 39 years, you probably have a system, a process, or, how do you make sure that you're hiring good people? I'm sure there at the facility, there's a specific culture. And so how do you make sure that who you're going to hire next really fits in with the work that you do and the culture there?
Well, it's tough to hire people that already have your culture. Okay, you're going to want to line up someone that you think is moldable and that you can get to work and fit within your culture, because it's tough to find the people that are already trained and set up and ready to go and whatnot. Yeah, you can find them, but everybody wants to keep those people. They're hard to pry away from someone else, and so it varies a lot in terms of the type of person that we're trying to hire. If it's one of our technical people for the field, and we have about 15 of those people out in the country that are working, and in some of those we have several PhDs and several master's people in those positions. And in those, it's about just internal networking, and whether it's your business or my business, we may think it's a big business, but if I know 10 people, between those 10 people and me, we know an awful lot of the people within our industry. So when we need to hire someone with those technical skills and those type of things, we have more success networking within the people we know. Some of those are university people, and it might be someone young coming out through their system, but we've hired people there before, and they kind of know what we're looking for. We also know a lot of people within the industry that may, do a good job, and maybe they're overregulated by some other entities, and we offer our staff a lot of freedom and stuff. So, you just got to keep your ear open to what's going on out there. And to me, at least from the technical standpoint, recruiting those people is a 365-day job. You know, when you're out some places, a meeting, when you're on the phone, when you're, you know, you always got to be thinking of who do I need to hire next, particularly in those type of positions, you know. Those are key things. And sometimes we have relationships. We've got people that we've known for several years before they actually came to work for us, but you plant the seed and you keep coming and you cultivate that. So that's one end of the spectrum. If you go to the other end of the spectrum in terms of our feed mill and truck drivers and stuff, that's another process. But again, we still really rely on networking because we get a lot of employees through our current employees. Things have changed, as everybody well knows, in terms of hiring people, whether it's, you know, hiring the next generation, whether it's millennials or whoever it may be. It's a different process than what it was. You can't treat everybody the same when it comes to the interview process, but there's actually some links and stuff on Facebook that we've used and whatnot that has been doing pretty good about getting the word out on a broader basis within our local environment. You know, the Facebook type of issues work better than the newspaper. They work better than, we've had more success than that. Now, you also get a lot of stuff that you have to sort out and stuff when you go that route. But you know, hiring people is such an important part of what you do, but it's also the toughest part. If you sat there and told me that I had to go out and hire, if I had 4 field people retiring and I had to go hire 4 field people in the next quarter, that would be the toughest job I would ever have. I mean, it's tough to find good people. So that's our approach. But once we get them on board, it's about spending time with the people. You know, I can about size things up. When I have some people that I lose, I look back on it and say, why did you lose those? Were they a good employee? I'll sit there and say, well, it's your fault. You didn't spend enough time with them. You know, you just kind of hired them and let them out there and, you know, you didn't get in their way, but you didn't help them. You didn't give them a roadmap. You didn't give them some of the tools that they needed to be able to do their job. And a lot of times when we lose people, it's because we didn't indoctrinate them properly, make sure we knew what they needed for tools. I can think back to some of our best hires and they did a really good job. And I'll look at them and say, well, you know, those are the guys I spent the most time with when we onboarded them, making sure they had. Now, they were also very good people and probably better than some of the others that we have, but time spent on new people is a really good investment. The challenge you have is, in my position, is when we hire new people, nothing else stops, okay? The other divisions still run and they still need their direction and they still need their coaching to move them down. And that's the challenge that we have with new people in a company of our size. Our company is basically 80 people, okay? So, you know, we're not great big, but we're not, you know, we're more than 5 or 10 people, but we're basically 80 people. So spending time onboarding people and making sure they understand what they're supposed to do, how to do it, what questions they might have, those are things that are very important. So that's kind of giving you a quick overview from really one end of what we do in terms of hiring people with degrees to hiring someone that needs to do our production work and whatnot. And both are important. And we've been successful with what we have. You know, we just retired 2 people. That one of them was Nancy Cruz, and she'd been here over 35 years. And the other was Mark Wilhite, who started the same time I did. So he had 39 years in with DeKalb Feeds. And we still have 2 or 3 people here at the Rock Falls location that have been over here 35 years. And so we've had longevity with a lot of our core key people. And that speaks to the new people that come in as well. That, you know, gee, if these people stayed here this long, they must not get treated too badly around here.
That's
So,
pretty impressive.
I want to touch on some.
I want to take you all the way back to, in the beginning, you said, you know, you look for people who are moldable. When you're interviewing or, you know, kind of researching somebody's background, how do you know that a candidate has the potential to be moldable?
Well, you kind of got to dig at it and kind of see what he has. And there's enough things that we can talk about in certain areas that you can always find a point to challenge them on, and then you kind of open that up and try to have a discussion. And and you see if they're willing to change their mind or what they may have. And that works more on the technical side, where there's probably more things to that you can get in discussions about, whether that be nutrition applications or whatever it may be. With with your production workers and stuff, that's probably a little less so, but you kind of find out what did you do before and why did you leave, and what were the issues that you had, and some of those things, so that you kind of know what's their hot and their cold points, and and you try to work it that way. But if you you want to try to figure out what's going to be your challenge with this person if they come on board. We always pick on some of the younger people, that their second question they have during the interview process is, how much vacation time do I get? And that really, okay. It takes you down a path, and it gives you an idea where you're at with these guys. And so you got to work around that. And again, people are different. You can't expect them to be, and if you're always trying to hire someone that's yourself, you're in trouble. If you think that's a good model, you've got to be open to who's there. But we've hired, we're not always successful with who we hire. I like to think we win more than we lose some. And the other thing that I guess, when it comes to managing personnel, when you front end load it and do it right with these people, you got to figure out early on with some of our people. Some of our people, we give plenty of time to figure out where they're at. And sometimes it ends up in termination. And there's a couple young people, and I've told them when they've left. I've known when they leave, did they go to a better job or not? Several of them did, and all you got to do is wish them well and congratulate them, and they go on. There's some that we let go, and two in particular that I could think of over the years, that weren't very happy with me. But I told them when we were all said and done, 5 to 10 years from now, you're going to come back and you're going to thank me for this. And they both have. They come back and say, boy, I didn't leave you that day. But he says, you were right. That was the best thing for me. He says, I came over here and this really fit my skill set better. And it's interesting as you size up these people. And I wish them all success, whether it's with us or if they get a better job someplace else, so be it. It's my job to sit there and provide them a place where they think they can continue to grow and develop. And if I can't provide them that, then that's what they have to do. They need to move on to another job at a place that maybe offers some more layers than what we have. Hueber Feeds / DeKalb Feeds is a very flat company. Okay, there's not, if you're looking for a bunch of top title changes and whatnot and a big long career path, we don't have that. We're pretty flat. And every person can walk right in my door about any time they want, sit down, and if they've got a question, a concern, whatever, we're pretty flat. We're pretty easy to communicate with. When we talk about DeKalb Feeds and Hueber Feeds, some people ask, well, what's your greatest strength? I'll say it's our lack of structure. We're very flexible. We can do all kinds of things. What's your greatest weakness? It's our lack of structure. We can't get much bigger than what we are, because you can't manage these people the way that we do right now if it was twice as large. Because it just takes a lot of men. It doesn't take a ton of time, but you got to have a lot of touch points with your people to make sure they're on path and they're on target with where they're going. So
yeah, well, I'm curious too, with close to 40 years and the changes that you've seen there at Hueber DeKalb Feeds, has leadership changed? You've talked about millennials, and has how you've looked at leadership or your strategies or practices with leadership, has that changed over that time?
I'd like to say, yeah, it's changed dramatically, and I've learned all this, and this. But I had a really good mentor, and he taught me a lot of things, and many of those things are still applicable today. There's simple things, okay? Tell the truth. Do what you say you're going to do, okay? And if you do those things, it really uncomplicates everything else. Because why do you get in trouble? Well, I didn't do my project. I was supposed to have it done by then. Well, why didn't you have it done by then? You know, well, you promised me that I would have this position or a shot at this position. Okay, yeah, I blew it. Whatever it is, I overassessed you. I thought you were, you know, don't overpromise, tell the truth and do what you say. I think those are timeless things. I think in places where we have issues, you know, and sometimes people don't want to hear the truth and it ends up splitting you up. But I mean, in terms of leadership, gosh, don't overpromise, tell the truth, follow up, return phone calls, simple, courteous things. That's that's not hard, but yet with some of these people, it's a matter of, oh my God, you mean I can't email everybody all the time? I'd have to go, I actually have to pick up the phone and talk to somebody. I got to get feedback from them verbally. Oh my goodness. I'm trying not to pick on them, but some people, I can tell you, they write emails and I'm sitting there saying, okay, this is the third email in a row you sent. I never have a fourth with those people. I pick up the phone and I call them. I say, let's have a discussion, because sometimes you just need to talk to them and get them on a straight and narrow. So, email has changed how things done. It's less personal communication, less touch points, less, that's changed things. But, we got a good young man that we just promoted to our plant superintendent here. And he's only like 27 years old, but he did a good job with his leadership in terms of developing. We could see it early on, and we kind of fueled him to get to this point. And then you kind of had to prepare some of those others that have been here 20 years ago, that there have been 20 years or more here, that young guy that's only been here 5 or 6 years is going to be their new boss. So you got to deal with those type of things as well. But again, we knew when the one person that was going to retire that started with me, that had been here 39 years, he gave us good notice. We had a good plan, and we made it work.
Yeah. Kelly, you have shared so much in such a short amount of time. I told you at the beginning, I said, usually I try and shoot for 20 minutes. My research shows that that's about as much attention span as people have for podcasts. And I feel like we have just brushed the surface of things I want to ask you more about. And I just feel like there's just so much wisdom that you have from, that much time spent in your role there. So I guess as we, finish out the interview, Kelly, is there anything else that you want to share about leadership or lessons learned, or, just advice for people that are currently serving in a leadership role?
Okay, well, I touched on it briefly, but I think this is a very important thing is if you're going to give people responsibility, you have to give them authority. Okay, you can't give them responsibility and then they're coming back to you every time. Well, okay, is this okay to do this? No, you got to empower them. And yeah, sometimes you're going to get a tuition bill on them because they're going to make something that's the mistake, or you may make something that you think is a mistake and turns out to be a pretty good idea, and you end up learning from everybody on the deal. But sometimes you just got to let some people, go out and do it their way and see what they do. But you've got to empower people. People don't work very well with handcuffs on them. So, that's one of the things that I think is important as well. But by the same token, it's just kind of like you can't let them run free either. Okay, you got to talk to them again, touch points, and guide them in. I got one guy that's extremely successful, but it's his top 5 priorities are fairly dynamic. Okay, and in managing someone that's got so many ideas going through his head and whatnot, trying to keep him focused on those same 5 so they're not rotating out all the time is a challenge. So that's my touch point with him, is trying to keep his priorities square, because he's got so many interests and so many things he wants to do, but I need him to do these things. So yeah. Those are things. Give them responsibility, give them some latitude to do their jobs.
Well, that's great advice. And I know, Kelly, your job can be so technical, I'm sure, at times, but just listening to you talk about that human side and talking about the leadership side and your perspective has been just really refreshing. And so I appreciate you being part of the podcast, Kelly. And I really appreciate your time this afternoon.
Well, thank you, Lisa. I was glad to participate. So good
Yep.
luck with your project here, okay?
Thank